This is something we can criticize by Ironheart almost immediately. It's a show that could have been a movie.
You know, the question I get asked most often is, Tony, how do you go to the bathroom in the suit? Just like that.
No! God, please, no! No!
Welcome back to Torn Apart, and today, as usual, we're doing something that we do once in a while, and we have a new MCU series on Disney Plus, and you know what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna watch the pilots, because we have 3 actually to look at, which is bold. I don't think it definitely shows confidence in the product, without a doubt, and we'll try to see basically where this season is heading, what is the future of the MCU, how it ranks amongst all the other MCU series. Is this worth watching for people who do not give a shit about the MCU? Or is this just for hardcore fans of specific movies, specific franchises, specific creative directions? Let's have a look.
We're gonna end up dead or in jail.
This is so much bigger than that.
And I feel like before we go into the episodes and talk about spoilers and stuff like that, I feel like we have to talk about the context. What is this series about? Where does it take place? Let's have a look. Well, first of all, Ironheart is set in the aftermath of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and it basically follows the teenage MIT prodigy Riri Williams, who is played by Dominique Thorne, as she returns to Chicago, where she crafts her own high-tech armor, becoming a symbol of genius and determination. Actually, I really doubt that, but soon finds herself entangled in a clash between technology and the mystical underworld led by the enigmatic criminal Parker Robbins, aka The Hood. It's a series that is talking about basically her trauma of losing people who were really close to her, and it's just 6 episodes, which should get you worried if they immediately went in with 3 episodes for the pilot. And this gets us worried mostly because very often when people do that, it's because they're not really confident in the original material. Maybe they're not sure that the first episode or even the second one are like good enough to get the attention of the audience, especially these days because there are so many TV shows nowadays. Like the other night I was trying to look for just one movie that I'd be able to watch and have a good time without thinking too hard, and I couldn't find anything. I did Apple TV, I did Max, I did Netflix, I did Disney Plus, I did Prime. I couldn't find a single movie that I haven't seen. It was all series, and every single time that it was an interesting concept, I would click on it. It was like, this is a series, limited series of like 5 episodes, and I'm like, I don't have the time for that. I want just a normal movie. This is something we can criticize by Ironheart almost immediately. It's a show that could have been a movie, like without a doubt. You can see it in the first 3 episodes where it doesn't really feel like a series, kind of like other MCU shows. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a good example. I feel like Secret Invasion, the material itself would have been so massively improved if it just had been a movie. More context here. I love Iron Man, of course. Probably the original Iron Man, like the 2008 movie, was the one that I rewatched constantly as a teenager over and over and over again. And I had this fantasy of like someday being clever enough to like build my own suit in the basement. Like I had this fantasy like over and over again when I was a teenager. I'm not kidding. Like honestly, I genuinely believe that this would happen at some point and I'll be able to fly around and save people. But the thing is, when it comes to Iron Man, you cannot really detach the Iron Man character from his hyper-militaristic concept and vibes, and also like the context of the movie itself. I feel like Iron Man is one of those heroes that does not work at all with a low budget, and also within a series, I think as well. Mostly because the Iron Man suit gives you so much power. It's kind of like the nanobot suit that Spider-Man has as well, where he has so much potential, he has so many incredible things that he can do with it, and he's almost invulnerable when you think about it, that it's really hard to care if you don't put him in very high stakes scenarios. And also it's very hard to make us just be worried about him just in general. And I feel like linking Iron Man to the kind of the Iraq war and that old terrorist vibes that you get in the first and the third movie specifically, basically those were the perfect like moods and themes to address in an Iron Man movie. This is a thing that is still contextually important nowadays. I feel like we're still talking about how certain countries are saying, oh, you need to stop the war, you need to stop fighting, you need to stop genocide, you need to stop killing people, and then they're dealing behind the wall kind of like deals selling weapons. Like France was literally caught doing this a couple of weeks ago while promoting peace in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So it's still a topic that is important today, and that's when I was like, the Ironheart series, I feel like it's not gonna go into that, and it would have never worked as well, just because it's so, well, politically correct. As in, Disney is trying to be so politically correct when it comes to the themes that they want to talk about. They would never talk about war and hyper-militarization in the way that the Iron Man character really needs it to, because you need to make a movie or a series that is actively against that, basically saying that you're not allowed to have that suit. I'm the only one who actually has certain values that basically make him more powerful than most people and better at making decisions. We have the same thing going on here with Ironheart, where you watch these 3 episodes and you don't really know what it's supposed to be about. It's kind of like trying to be a series about African American roots, so it's deeply set in Chicago. There are so many places there. You could tell that they're shot in location, of course, and it's definitely interesting, and a lot of people from that community as well kind of creating that sense of belonging there. But at the same time, you juxtapose that with a person in an Iron Man suit, and I'm like, that's the worst idea ever when you think about it, because the police would literally be shooting at black people in the street just because they saw this other black person in a suit flying around the city. And that is the main problem with the first 3 episodes, is that it feels like it lacks stakes, and it feels like it's so completely detached from the problems that African American people are really facing nowadays living in America. Like, do you actually believe that they would let like Riri walk out of MIT with that suit and let her like do stuff and actually do crime without getting interrupted by anyone, by SHIELD or by any other like government organization? I really do not believe that, and that is the main problem of this, is that you can't really tell an Iron Man story and set it in just a town. Iron Man, the cool thing about Iron Man is the fact that he fights people with big guns, he fights fighter jets, he's flying around. That is the cool part about Iron Man. It's not the same with Spider-Man, where you can actually like explore the architecture of a town by using his skill set and his powers. Iron Man is all about kind of destruction and destroying things. And yeah, I mean, when people actually started criticizing Ironheart for the fact that she killed some people in this series while Iron Man never did, 100% not true. I'm pretty sure that Iron Man killed a lot of people, maybe not on purpose, maybe not directly on screen, but just to say that that is a weird thing to actually grasp at, where you clearly have a series that doesn't really need an Iron Man to be in it. Like, when you look at the band of people that are committing these crimes against rich people, they look like they're from like a parody of a series like this. Like, they look like they're from an Ocean's 11 kind of movie. They are also quirky looking and they have their own like personality, but at the same time you don't have the time to address them and you don't have the time to identify with any of them. So at the end of the day, you're sitting there being like, why are there so many characters in this series? Maybe it's just because they knew that if they were gonna put Riri into high stakes situations constantly, the budget would just explode, because that's what is required with a series starring Iron Man / Ironheart. You get what I mean. That is also the main problem with the Hulk. That's why probably it's not been giving like an A-list standalone movie or series, because it's incredibly expensive to be the Hulk and also to create everything around it, right? Even the She-Hulk series, that's why it didn't look that good. That's why it looked a bit meh and cringeworthy at times, mostly because they had to commit to the bit if they actually wanted to make She-Hulk the main character of the season. Even the fact that we have our main villain, who is not really a villain at the beginning, who's basically using this hood and it gives him like invisibility and these magical powers, and there are some like demon kind of like vibes within it. It reminds me of things like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I was sitting there being like, this is not a villain for Ironheart. Like, he's not invisible, shoot a missile at him, he's dead, without a doubt. And also most of the time when he's just walking around with this cape, with this hood, he looks like a cosplayer. Do you remember that scene with the LARPing in the Aoki series? That's what it felt like to watch all of these people in a room. Or it felt like Now You See Me as well. Like these quirky people standing around, being incredibly clever and having incredibly clever plans. I mean, in the second episode we get, like, of course, them actually trying to sabotage the underground, like, railway system or whatever the hell. There are some cool effects, and in the third episode we get another scene like that where Riri gets to actually use her AI system for interesting things, where, like Tony Stark did as well, having the suits basically do other things while he's working on something different. That's something that is really cool that most heroes cannot do, actually, when you think about it. You cannot, like, have, like, someone else in the suit carrying out certain, like, parts of the mission, or even being a distraction while you are actually doing something else. Like, no one else can do it. So that was actually quite clever. But, like, the main problem I have is also with the fact that Riri Williams, we don't really get any character development for her. We do get some kind of backstory, and the fact that she's traumatized came out of nowhere. We didn't really know anything about that, like, during Wakanda Forever. But that is the problem. She was introduced in Wakanda Forever as kind of an important side character, wearing the most ridiculous, like, Power Ranger kind of suit I've ever seen. So immediately she was ridiculed in that movie, and I was sitting there being like, you want this character to be the standalone character in this series where clearly no one was interested in her. And I don't think it's necessarily like something about misogyny, something about like being racist as well. Of course, a lot of people have those kind of arguments online. Let's not like pretend that those arguments don't exist. But I'm sitting here being like, sometimes Disney does this where they just point at a certain character in the background and they're like, you're gonna get like a spin-off series. They did it a couple of months ago with Agatha Harkness, am I right? And it worked. I was sitting there being like, there is no way that this movie should work, and it actually did work. And I enjoyed it. I had a really good time, mostly because it really exploited the magical stuff, it really exploited the characters and the vibes of WandaVision as well, to deliver something that was familiar but also very different. And the problem with Ironheart is that it kind of feels like other things like Miss Marvel, for example, very low street level kind of hero, but she's not that. She's an Iron Man kind of substitute. And I know that people are like, she's not that, she's her own person, but to us, like, we saw Tony Stark die a couple of years ago basically, and it's really weird to put her in these kind of situations. And now we're already at half the season and we already established basically that we have this villain here who's gonna go after basically Riri Williams because the demons in his head whisper to him that she did it, she killed his best friend, which is kind of like a lazy thing to do writing wise when you think about it, because he could have figured it out like by himself. It would have been way more interesting to see them interact a little bit before he actually found out that she betrayed him, right? It's so low stakes and it's so weird to have that with a character who is a prodigy, incredibly clever. Literally, she has her own suit in the first episode and it gets smashed a little bit just because she was like not clever enough to think that maybe she shouldn't link the AI to the university like system. So basically when she's locked out of the university system, the entire suit falls apart. And they don't really talk about why the suit actually needs an AI to function, because there is a scene, for example, I think in the second or third episode, where she basically freezes because of the AI who froze as well, and she becomes completely useless. And I'm sitting here being like, what is the argument around it? Like, do you want to give her this kind of weakness? Boring. I feel like it's kind of boring to just make her weakness the fact that the AI is unreliable when it comes to working with her. I don't know, it just didn't really feel very cinematic at the end of the day, mostly because we don't really like AI lately, so you definitely can understand where I'm coming from. But the problem with this series is that, as I said, she comes around, she has her own suit already, which, fair enough, I'm gonna say this, it looks better than in the trailers. In the trailers I was like, there is no way this is gonna look good. It looked like a Power Ranger suit once again. But I actually like the second version a little bit more because it's a bit roughed up. But the reason why I think I don't like it is that when you see women wearing like armors, and especially an Iron Man armor as well, it doesn't just look like the bulky version that you can see on a man as well. So I just find it weird that it still looks like something that a man would wear. I don't know, you could say that armors can be unisex, but at the end of the day, it's also cool that we have women wearing armor, wearing Iron Man suits, and they would like to actually wear something that is different and that does not look like something that Tony Stark would wear or any kind of male hero would wear as well. You could make it pink, I don't give a fuck, as long as it actually looks interesting and it looks like there is a human, like woman, inside there, and it's not just like a bunch of metal that anyone could put on. And it's really funny because people online were talking about War Machine and the fact that like people like accepted War Machine almost immediately just because he was a man. It's like, no, nobody gives a shit about War Machine. Like, people actively hated War Machine because he looks like everything that Tony Stark basically fought against. He literally has like a huge minigun coming off his shoulder, especially in the original films. I think it was taken off maybe in the Endgame Infinity War movies, if I'm not mistaken, and we cared about him just when he lost his legs, basically, and because Tony Stark cared about him, so it was by association. No one talks about War Machine. Have you ever had a conversation with someone about War Machine since the Skrull thing? The Skrull thing is the only thing that actually brought him back into the conversation, because he's been such a no interest kind of a character at the end of the day. So that is a bullshit argument if you're using that to say that people are shitting on Ironheart just because she's a woman. I don't think so. The thing that I find cool though is the fact that money is a main issue in this series, and it really proves how Tony Stark was Iron Man just because he was privileged. Like, that's why you've never seen me fly around in an armor suit. I never had the money to actually make it. Even if I had the knowledge or the skill set, like, if you do not have the money, you will never be able to make an Iron Man suit. And that's why he was able to do most of the stuff that you saw him do in the first trilogy. And every single movie kind of like upgraded his core, upgraded his Iron Man suit as well to make it more adapted to the people that he was fighting. But he did that very efficiently because he had a lot of money. So it makes sense that Rhea Williams would struggle with that, and that's why she has the ideas, she just doesn't have the means to actually like make them happen. And that is an interesting thing that they definitely applied in this series here. The idea of how do you actually make like millions of dollars to turn yourself into a hero? Crime, that is the only thing that will allow you to do it fast, because she definitely cannot get into cryptocurrency or something like that. And she definitely cannot work at Walmart or like at a random cafe to pay her like Iron Man suit. It will never happen. That is basically what I thought about this series. I feel like the future is not going to be that interesting. Like, I really don't see them turning this around to like make it like matter. I feel like this is definitely gonna have like a big third act kind of explosion where she will have the Mach 3 version of her Iron Man suit and everything will come together. But even when you think about it, the characters around her, the side characters, I don't care about them the same that I cared for Miss Marvel's family, for example. So like, this series is also doing a poor job at developing those relationships so that we care about small scale stuff. But actually, I'm not surprised that the writing is not impeccable on this series, because I find myself really hard to care about this, but it's because it's been developed by Chinaka Hodge, who is best known basically for writing The Midnight Club and the TV adaptation of Snowpiercer. The Midnight Club is one of the worst things that Mike Flanagan is attached to, mostly because of the writing. This is yet another filler TV show that Disney Plus has put on so we can like ride the wave in between something good and maybe something better with Fantastic Four. Honestly, I don't think I recommend it to most people. Even if you're an Iron Man fan, you'll be so incredibly disappointed by this series. There is no reason why you would actually enjoy it at the end of the day, and I feel like it doesn't really have the same grit and cultural relevance that Black Panther had. It just feels very meh. So those are my thoughts for Ironheart. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of Ironheart as well. And if you like this video, as usual, here at the bottom I'm gonna be putting other videos that I've talked about when it comes to MCU stuff or superhero stuff. Let's see. I'm pretty sure that we have a lot here. And up here, it's gonna be finally we're talking about Fantastic Four. I can't wait. I feel like it looks really, really fun. They haven't shown almost anything in the trailers. Actually, I watched only one trailer, and I refuse to watch the other ones because I don't want to be spoiled. So this is gonna be month of Marvel. We're gonna be having 2 videos talking about Marvel, mostly because I don't have as much attachment to Superman, so I don't want to make a video on it. So there you go. And as you can see, I'm still here. I haven't moved out of my apartment. It's coming though. It's coming literally in between this video and Fantastic Four, so it is possible that this will look a little bit different for the next video. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to smash that like button. Every single time that you do that, you make sure that we get another impressive Iron Man suit created by Riri Williams, so that we can just have Iron Man suits in our lives, because
can I count on you?
they look fascinating and they're not like robots, you know, they're just inherently more interesting than just android stuff. Oh, actually I would love for android stuff / cyborg stuff to be part of the MCU. Can you imagine like someone who just is missing his arms and he has like robotic arms? Or like a villain that has lost both his limbs, or he cut off his limbs on purpose to replace them with robotic parts. That would have been a perfect villain for Riri to fight. But once again, maybe it doesn't exist in the comics. I didn't say this, but I've not read any of the Ironheart comics. I've read quite a lot of Iron Man comics though, and it's honestly the thing that introduced me to comics just in general. One of the first few comics I bought was an Iron Man like collection of the early stuff, 60s, 70s, 80s Iron Man. So I'm sitting here being like, this is why I had to make this video, because I'm really passionate about this subject. I don't know why I keep rambling. I need to let you go back to your lives. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
Back in the 90s, I was in a very famous TV show.
Da 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 da.